Welcome to Real Estate Coaching Radio, starring award-winning real estate coaches and #1 international best-selling authors, Tim and Julie Harris. This is the #1 daily radio show for realtors looking for a no BS, authentic, real-time coaching experience. What's really working in today's market, how to generate more leads, make more money, and have more time for what you love in your life. And now your hosts, Tim and Julie Harris.
3, 2, 1, and we're back. And Julie, it is the June. It is the June. Did I just say the June? That's weird, right?
The 2nd of June is what you meant to say.
Oh, thank you. See, this is what happens when I start the podcast. I've only got a half a Diet Coke in me.
Only. You mean in the past hour?
Oh, yeah. Come on now. You're making me sound like a caffeine abuser. I can quit at any time. Really, I can.
Sure,
I quit
anytime.
So we are picking up where we left off yesterday and the day before, where we're talking about basically how to create your inventory. There has been a lot of really great feedback on this podcast in particular. You know, the funny thing is, Julie, is we talk about this type of content every day on our podcast.
We do indeed.
And it always, I always have to be reminded, and I get it through the feedback, that even though we say something 1,000 times, it sometimes takes 1,001 for the person who's already heard 1,000 times to actually listen.
Yes, and they have to come to terms with the fact that perhaps the reason they hear it over and over is because it actually works.
So we're going to get to our next point, but Julie was just telling me a funny story that happened on our premier coaching session today. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Actually, I want you to tell that story. So it was you were telling me about the new agent and her broker.
Yeah, this was one of our great premier coaching members. And, you know, she's done the right thing and she's hired professional coaching. She's trying to shorten the learning curve. And
she's focusing on being a listing agent.
Being a listing agent, being
right.
proactive. And she said, I don't understand why my broker has decided to spend thousands. She didn't tell me how many thousands, but she said thousands of dollars per month on Zillow leads. And she's like, I'm grateful to have a flow of leads, except for the fact that not a single one is converted. Here's what happens. I call them back very quickly, like you always tell me to. Okay, I call them back and they just want to hear they just want the listing agent. When I tell them I'm not the listing agent, they hang up. And so many times agents have asked me as a coach, and that you've gotten this too, how do I overcome that objection that I'm not the listing agent?
Well, what Zillow teaches you to do basically is, I shouldn't say bait and switch, because that's not what it is. Mm-hmm. But what they essentially do is they try to teach you to move the conversation away from basically the fact that you're not the listing agent. Yeah. But really what that whole website is it really truly is, baity and switchy, shall we say?
Well, it is. And I have heard from agents that they say on purpose that house is already sold. Tell me what you're looking for, right, without even looking it up or knowing anything about it.
Exactly. And so but ultimately we've been, which you and I have been telling agents not to buy leads from Zillow since 2007, 2008 when they went public. But the reality of it is that agents will still do it, and brokers will still do it because they don't know the facts about the conversion ratios, which are absolutely terrible.
Yeah. And by the way, guys, there is no script to overcome are you the listing agent when you're not.
Well, right, exactly. Oh, there is one. It's called lying. Right. Yeah. And that's kind of like the truth is your agent, for example, in our coaching program, who's receiving that question over and over again, Zillow will give her some nice objection handlers, but they're just essentially, let's say, obfuscating the truth. Decoys. And she doesn't feel comfortable she doesn't want to essentially do something that she perceives as being a potential lie. Mm-hmm. And so she doesn't want to deal with those, types of leads. And a lot of agents, so Zillow would say, well, or I suppose any lead selling service would say, well, it's because you're not using our scripts. Well, in other words, you're telling me to essentially tell the consumer something that isn't true about my status of that listing. Yeah. I mean, the whole thing is so convoluted. That's the reason that all these lead buying services are basically going the way of the dodo bird. They're all going, essentially, they're changing their business models and going out of business. But here's the real height of insanity for that particular epiphany that gal had. Mm-hmm. It was a gal, right?
Yes.
How stupid is it in this marketplace to buy buyer leads?
It's insane.
Imagine that. Buy buyer leads.
It's not a problem.
So I'm going to give you, especially all those new agents out there, or those of you who've been caught in the lead buying vortex, or frankly just been working with buyers and never really discovered that indeed the grass is greener on the other side of the fence working with sellers. I'll give you a little secret here. Ready? Write this down. I'm going to tell you your 3-part attraction plan to attract as many buyers as you would ever want to deal with, and you could become your own Zillow. You could start selling leads to agents. Here's what you have to do. I want you to focus what I'm saying.
Super secret.
Number 1, learn how to become a listing agent. Number 2, list houses. Number 3, put a sign writer on the signs from 1-800-HOME-HOTLINE.com, which will induce the buyers to call off the sign asking about the house for sale, thus creating buyer leads and also creating potential seller leads, because depending on the price of the house for sale, a lot of those buyers will have, listings, houses they need to sell. So ultimately, isn't that what Zillow and all these other sites did with these portal sites? They're essentially just taking your listings and they were essentially selling your leads, which would have normally gone to you as a listing agent, off to other agents. So, there you go. So
do it yourself.
What your takeaway should be is learn to be the listing agent. And then you're going to have to beat the buyers off with a stick. I bet one really raggedy sketch house in this marketplace, ill-priced, terrible location.
Could be a tent.
In most cities, right. Yeah. In most cities, I bet you'll find, you were looking for VRBOs recently for a big sojourn we're about to go on, just out of curiosity. And people are literally putting tents in their yards and VRBOing.
No joke.
Yeah. Well, let's not get off. So yeah, you're looking at just this market where agents are getting in. There's more agents getting licenses right now than any time probably in the history of the National Association of Realtors. Millions and millions of people are going to be getting into real estate because they all did the pre-licensing during COVID. And now the states are finally catching up with allowing people to take their tests. So you're having more and more people pass their tests, get into real estate. And what are they doing when they get into real estate? They're going to people and they're saying, well, what should I do first? They're going to people other than Tim and Julie Harris, obviously. And they're all saying, well, you're a new agent, so you should work with buyers. Why don't you go buy buyer leads? Which is the absolute quickest path to real estate failure that there ever has been, Indeed. Especially in a market like this. Put all your best efforts. It does not matter if the ink is not yet dried on your real estate license. Put all your best efforts into becoming a listing agent as fast as possible. Learn to do the real work of real estate as fast as possible. Don't screw around with doing all these this insanity. And just, guys, look, the fact is that don't you intuitively know, like this gal said, I start getting all these leads from my broker. All the leads basically are garbage leads because guess what? I'm calling them back and I'm not the listing agent and they don't want anything to do with me. Well, that is essentially the experience that all of these buyers agents are having. And so what a lot of them are told to do, well, you take those buyer leads, you put them in a drip campaign, and then you just drip on them long term. And then somehow magically they're going to raise their hand eventually sometime in the future and want to buy a house from you. Really? Is that really how it works? All this stuff, guys, is a very elegant lie. It all is. And it's all been tested and proven countless times. And yet more and more people are getting into the business with real estate business with no previous sales or business background, have no idea to know BS from non-BS, and they're basically spending money with these companies. And the companies know statistically most agents are failing out of the business within 24 months or less, so they really don't have to build a product that's built to last. They don't have to teach you skills. They just have to sell you hopium. Does this make sense, Julie?
It does. It's just a numbers game for them. They know that, you're going to survive or you're not, whether, they're going to keep on going after new agents and selling them hopium and keep turning that wheel.
Guys,
and you know that because when you call them and say it doesn't work, they just say you either haven't done it long enough or
right.
you haven't spent enough money or both.
In other words, they're going to say it's your fault, it's your fault, it's your fault. Yeah. That's what they're going to say. It's not the leads. Oh, no, not the leads. It's you. So look, guys, the bottom line is what the reason that you're attracted to all these little scammy ideas is because you're ignorant, right? And there's nothing wrong with being ignorant. There's being blissfully ignorant, which many of you are. You don't know that there's a proper way to essentially build your real estate business or any business. So you do easily succumb, especially when you're getting quote unquote advice from good meaning brokers, office managers, friends, compatriots, people on Facebook telling you that you should follow all these goofy ideas. They don't know any better. And so you're getting advice from people that don't know any better. And you're surrounded by a lot of don't know any better. And so then you're going to be stuck in the same vortex of, ignorance, blissful ignorance. But once you've been woken up to the fact, and I don't mean that in the political sense, of essentially the right way, the logical way, the practical way, the profitable way to run a real estate business, then it's on you. And so what happens a lot of times is you guys will get into the business and you don't necessarily, you intuitively naturally look for the easiest path to the top of the mountain. All of us do. But then what you're not realizing is that there's billions and billions of dollars that are made every year from selling agents. The idea, the illusion of a quick path to the top of the mountain by buying this or buying that or doing this or doing that. And again, you guys don't know any better. So you do it and you spend money on it. And the next thing you know, you're thinking that I have to become an influencer and you're doing Facebook ads and social networking and you're buying into 10-part systems to go after for sale by owners. Whereas what did Tim and Julie Harris tell you to do? Call them, go knock on their door, use this script, say that, get this result. Why would you be so attracted to all this other stuff? Because they're trying to sell you into the idea that you can create these passive systems to passively lead generate for you. So you never have to learn the skills and deal with the rejection. And they know that's what your greatest fear is. And they're going to essentially tell you you never have to overcome it. And here's your solution: buy this little goofy thing for $300. That's what they do. That isn't what we do. We're going to tell you the truth. You guys, if you want to, have ever increasing levels of success in your business and personal life, do what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it at the highest level. And a lot of times, especially when you're starting, it's going to be hard. It's going to suck, which you should be excited about because you know that virtually nobody else is going to be willing to put in the work. Most other people will quit the second they'll say, I am never buying what Harris has for sale because they just told me it's going to be hard. It's going to suck. I'm going to face rejection. All those things are true. And if you don't, you will fail 100% of the time.
That's right. And it won't suck forever. Good catch.
Thanks.
It will not suck forever, but it will suck longer if you don't take proactive action on the things that actually work in real estate. The real work of real estate. We call it that because it really works and because it's really work. Okay. So yes.
By the way, guys, a lot of you are asking about the Premier Coaching Program. That's our best selling, and I think it's our most popular coaching program. We've had tens of thousands of agents that are participating in the Premier Coaching Program. I'm not sure if it's the nation's best selling or most popular, or I'm not sure if any of those things are true, but I do know that we've had thousands and thousands of agents that have built their real estate success on the foundation that they learned in Premier Coaching. In addition to that, our biggest group of agents, and some of you might be surprised, are not the new agents, or not it's the agents that are basically selling 25 to 30 houses a year that want to take their business to the next level. And they know they've been building their business based on things that aren't, that are essentially no foundation. They're buying leads, they're doing gimmicky stuff. And now they're really saying, you know what, I got in this business to build a business, not always be beholden to buying leads. And so that's where our biggest surge of people buying into our coaching business or joining our coaching business. Now, but I want to tell you this, it's a perfect program for new agents as well, obviously, because you learn the right way to do real estate right away, opposed to having to wait. And then some of the agents that consider themselves grizzled veterans, they really appreciate the program too, for the same reason. They get to go back and learn the things they should have learned properly in the first place. And they then can break free of buying business. They then can break free of all the gimmicks and the silliness. And I'm seeing a lot of people that are joining Premier Coaching who are now essentially starting to meander down the social networking path and realizing that is mostly an act of futility. And they're saying, you know what, opposed to me going and trying to figure out this latest gimmick, I'm going to actually I'm going to go and I'm going to re-enroll myself in higher education, and I'm going to learn how to actually become a very profitable professional real estate practitioner. I mean, Rob Johnson, for example, We've been coaching him for 6 years. Mm-hmm. We started coaching him as a brand new agent. It's maybe more.
I think it's more because I think he started before Zoe was born. Or right when she was tiny.
Okay, so it's around seven to 8 years. Yeah. So he started as a brand new agent.
Yeah.
And so far this year, well, let's just put it this way. He has already closed and pending over $100 million.
That's incredible.
But here's the cool thing about Rob. He has one assistant. He has run his business exactly like we have taught him to.
Very tight.
And then you have Chuck Williamson, and you have Colette McDonald, and you have all these other superstars around the country that have been with us for more than 10 years in some cases, more than 20 in a couple cases. But the reality of it is they're staying with us and constantly, even after they reach the peak of this, their success mountain, because they're constantly learning and evolving and wanting to be held accountable to higher results. So I want you guys to consider becoming Premier Coaching members. It's what most of you need. Whether or not you're willing to accept that or not is a different conversation. So we've made it easy for you. Just text success, 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 text success to 47372. Go ahead and do that now. Text success. That's a tongue twister for me.
I know. It's all right.
Text success, SUCCESS, to 47372. Text success to 47372. And when you do, you have to, basically we're going to send you to the page that you can learn about Premier Coaching, and you can learn about essentially what you get as part of the coaching program. You do get a daily semi-private coaching call. You do have a 24/7 ability to have your questions answered. We are going going to teach you how to be a listing agent. You are going to learn. Essentially everything's done for you. It's a complete system. We're not just selling a bunch of non-connected ideas or a bunch of masterminds or goofiness. We're selling you an exact system. You're enrolling in Premier Coaching. You're going to learn how to be a listing agent. You're going to follow the steps we've laid out for you, and you can pretty much be guaranteed. You read our book, Harris Rules. Listen to our podcast every day. You know what Julie and I are going to do is very tactical and practical and designed to get you in the end zone and keep you winning year after year. So go ahead and text the word success to 47372.
Yes, and it's funny you mentioned grizzled veterans as well. Whenever you talk about them also being in Premier Coaching, and I know who they are, I hear from them every day in our Facebook Live sessions. They're not only great coaching clients, but they're also good contributors. Everybody learns from everybody else. It reminds me of when I take Spanish from my Spanish tutor, right? He makes it so much easier, okay? Because I don't have to sit there thinking I've got to conjugate every last verb. He'll be like, all you have to do is follow this pattern and do it exactly this way. And it's been literally life-changing for my language to take from somebody who does it for a living instead of relying on my own language workaround hacks. That's all, that's for your grizzled veterans.
The only reason, our coaching program is not expensive, right?
No,
so the only reason they wouldn't sign up is because they want to vacillate and procrastinate longer. Yeah. They don't want to actually, it's like, going to the gym, for example, and there's lots of trainers there that can actually get you to your result faster, and you just sort of walk past them and you ignore them. And you're in denial. I mean, it's not like it's a financial burden and but you don't want to actually engage with them because you know that your days of wistful bullshit will be over.
Well, that's the accountability, isn't it?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I know. It's the same with me with, learning anything new. There's a level of having to swallow your own ego a little bit. Admit that there's some stuff you don't know that knowing would make your life so much easier and more efficient. So Speaking of which, it is the time of Expired Palooza.
Right. So we are talking to you guys about how to create your own inventory. That is the topic of these podcasts. And so this turned out to be point number 4, right?
Yes.
Point number 4 is our expired listings. We do get the question from time to time. Tim and Julie, if you guys were to go back to selling real estate full time, what would you do? And I'll answer the question. Ready?
Sure.
What would our primary lead sources be? Number 1, expired listings. Yep. Number 2, centers of influence and past clients.
Agreed.
Those would be the 2 things that we'd focus on absolutely mostly.
And immediately.
Immediately, yeah. Absolutely. Why expired listings? I love expired listings.
Me too.
We made millions and millions and millions of dollars off expired listings. Why? Number 1, they have to sell.
Yes.
Number 2, they're willing to pay a commission.
Yeah, they're willing to list.
And they're willing to list. And number 4, you know what the price isn't.
Exactly. Well, and it's a little different now, but yes.
You get their phone number. They're not going to be, they're going to not be as grouchy as, in many cases, they're going to be humble because the market's rejected their house.
That's right.
So when you're dealing with an expired listing versus a for sale by owner, all things considered, all motivational things the same. Personally, I would definitely go after expired.
Expired's over for sale by owners, though we like
them.
Well,
if I can only choose 2, I would definitely go after all the other sources we teach too.
And I'd add another reason too.
And we teach 20 different sources of ways you can generate seller leads, right? But expireds are the easiest ones to get, and frankly, the easiest ones to convert. Some people love for sale by owners, but an expired usually is going to be a shorter term contact to list, getting listing contract versus a for sale by owner. Sometimes you have to romance them.
That's right. And another great thing about these versus things that, it counts as a contact to do a lot of just listed, just sold or cold stuff. But these guys have self-identified. They have their hand in the air going, I have a house to sell and I'm willing to list it. And we've tried this price. That makes it superior to pretty much every other kind of listing lead.
Now let's talk about why we put this number 4 as a great source for unlisted inventory. And some of you guys are going to go back a year, maybe go back 2 years, maybe go back 3 years in your MLS and look for all the listings that expired that did not get relisted. Now, there's a lot of statistics around that, but here's what we do know. Virtually every expired that expires today will list and sell within 12 months.
Yes.
If I remember correctly, the ratios are over 90%.
Yeah, absolutely. They're going to come back to the market.
Right.
And I have to point out, too, that over the past 12 to 18 months, there were not only a lot of expireds, but also a lot of withdrawns and temporarily off the market because of COVID.
Right, exactly. And how many of those have gotten relisted? How many of those sellers were going to relist with the agent who had it, then they took it off the market because of COVID, and the agent now is not in business anymore? All these types of things. You need to be going after expireds. Expired Palooza, what is that? There are certain sweet spots in the year, and here's what we consider a sweet spot for expired listings. where it's over a holiday weekend. Okay, when there's most agents, and this is a mistake, will actually set their listings to expire in the first of the month or the last day of the month. So you're going to see always a larger percent of expireds in the first day or the last day of the month. When there's more expireds, so there's a peak in expireds then, but there's expireds every day. But in addition to that, if it happens to fall over a weekend, a holiday weekend is absolute expired palooza. Why?
Yes, well, because people are home. They're not at work. So that typically is Memorial Day, Labor Day, sometimes the 4th of July, New Year's Day. But even if it's not a holiday weekend, when the months change, that's also expired palooza because people set it to expire on the first or the last day.
Well, I would call them bank holidays too.
Yeah, but President's Day, stuff like that.
Around, again, around the holidays towards the end of the year, that's golden time. But this right now, this Memorial Day week that we're experiencing now, absolutely golden time. Yep. And so what we would do, what Julie and I would always do, and this is advanced coaching for all of you, your new year, I know this is just a mindset thing more than anything, starts October 31st. And the reason that we tell you that is because that's when most agents stop working. And that's actually when most sellers are going to start, most people in general are going to be readily available, taking time off of work. And so if you start building your inventory, you have to have the mindset, I need to start building my inventory in late October for the spring of the following year. That way you hit the ground running with lots of listing contracts signed. You do that, you're going to have your best year ever. That is one of the biggest secrets that any top producer agent either consciously or subconsciously knows. You have to roll into the year with a crap ton of listing inventory, and crap ton is defined by whatever your real estate treasure map tells you. And once you figure that out, that number, when January 1st rolls over and you have available inventory and you are using 800homehotline.com and you're obviously converting a lot of the buyers off those sign calls and some of them have houses to sell, you're not waiting until April or May to start building your momentum again, which most agents do. You've got momentum. So you've got a whole quarter, 3 months on the essentially momentum on the year, which most agents make the mistake of trying to rebuild in late winter, basically.
That's right. And so now is a great time of year because kids are out of school. You don't have snowstorms to deal with. We're not really in full swing of hurricane season just yet. People are home. We're not having, I can't do it until after school lets out or school's going back next week.
COVID's
or any
over.
of these things. COVID's over. Yep. People are excited. People are out. NAR says 1 in 10 people have already decided that they're going to list. That means there's a whole bunch of people that are thinking about maybe listing in addition to that.
And you're saying, well, I don't want to go list a house because what if they have to buy something? I don't know how to find inventory. Listen to what we're telling you. You go list an expired today, Bob and Susan will say, I'll sell my house for $400,000, but I want to move to ABC neighborhood that's $600,000. Then you start calling the expireds in the ABC neighborhood, and then boom, you've created your own inventory.
One thing leads to the
guys,
next.
This is how you do it in a market like this. This is called real sales.
Well, this is how our coaching clients are doing it. They report in at Facebook Live every single day. We have about 3 or 4 minutes where they report in what was the last listing that you took and where did you get it from. And so many of them are for sale by owners where, believe it or not, agents are putting their commission on top and getting that plus. Let's we'll talk about FSBOs after this.
Well, that's a good point that you just said this.
Yeah.
So the number one reason expireds expire is because listings expire is because of price, condition, location, but location can't really be changed. Condition usually isn't going to be changed. So the only thing you can have a positive effect on is the price, as in getting the price lower. And you never say lower the price. More advanced coaching for all of you. Mr. Seller, we need to reposition the house in the market so we correctly reflect the market's expectations or the buyer's expectations. Never say lower the price. You'll learn this in coaching. Make sure you text the word success to 47372. Text the word success to 47372. So ultimately what happens is that let's say, for example, it expired 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, never got relisted. You call them up. They're going to be, obviously you might even have a buyer for the house. But here's the miracle of miracles. Chances are like 99.99% of the time, the house is worth more than whatever their overpriced expired price was 6 months ago, 90 days ago. In other words, 90 days ago it expired because they needed to lower the price and they wouldn't or couldn't lower the price. Now they can maybe even raise the price and the market will pay their higher price.
Because supply and demand have changed things.
And no, that's not normal, listeners.
It's not normal. This is coaching for today's times.
Yeah, this is
things change, we will change.
This is a wackadoo inflation market, but that's actually what's happening. And, like Julie said, it's very possible that you could call an expired and here's what they'll say. And I know at least 100 of you are going to do this. Tens of thousands of you guys will listen to this. So I know at least 100 of you will do it. You're going to call expired. You're going to be motivated. You're going to do it. You're going to say, holy crap, that was easy. I actually set a listing appointment. Yes. The seller is going to say to you, if I can sell for this price, the only reason I took it off the market is because I couldn't get my price. You're going to know the house is now worth substantially more than what their expired price was. And so you're going to say the simplest script of all. So, Mr. Seller, you're telling me that if you could sell the house for $400,000, that you'd put the house back for sale now? Seller will say absolutely. And you'll say, well, guess what? I have great news for you. The house is probably worth about $450,000 now. So would today at 2 o'clock or 2:30 be better so we can knock out the paperwork and get the house back for sale?
And it really does go like that.
And it really does go like that.
Yes.
If you do the damn work versus some of you who are just going to, I'm going to create a 10-book, I'm going to mail them a postcard.
I'm going to wait for the market to change.
I'm going to mail them a postcard. I'm going to do a Facebook campaign for them. I'm going to do some Instagram videos. I'm going to, all this Mickey Mouse. Call them. Go to the door. What are you procrastinating for?
No, because, the first thing an expired thinks to themselves is, I'm going to go look at TikTok and find my agent. Not. Okay. So I'm going to put a different spin on expireds, and then tomorrow we're going to talk about for sale by owners with all of you guys. So let's look at it from the struggling buyer standpoint, the struggling buyer's agent. This question comes up on every single coaching session. How do I win a bidding war? How do I make sure I'm the one that wins the bidding war? Okay. So yes, there are strategies, and we've done whole podcasts on that of how to sweeten it for the seller and how to be competitive. That's true. But there's two best ways. One is actually be the listing agent. And the other one is to find things for your buyers to buy that are not active in the MLS.
Right.
Where you're not having to compete. Make their lives easier. Isn't that what they're hiring you to do in the
hold
first
on,
place?
Julie. Pocket listings are illegal in my marketplace. We're not talking about pocket listings. We're talking about calling the expired from 6 months ago and finding out what their situation is, discovering that they'd still love to sell their house, then essentially having a buyer in your back pocket that want to buy it. That's not a pocket listing. You just put a deal together.
Exactly, and that's okay. We're playing a game in coaching right now called What I've Got and What I Want. So I've got a house in whatever subdivision, okay? It's getting to be too big, too old, too whatever for me. What I want to downsize. I want to move to the country. I want a condo. And keeping track of all that so that you can make the match. So you guys all are working with buyers. You know what they want. Some of them have something they need to sell, but you at least know what they want. When you make enough calls and you compile all of that data and you know who wants to move where, you're going to be a matchmaker.
And let's just circle the wagons around the expired listings. Yeah. And because it is insane to me that the market's confused about this point that we're making about all of our sources, right?
Sure.
So let's round the bend today on today's show and just create this visual for all of you. Julie and I are standing in front of an audience. And it's a live audience. Remember when we had those?
Yes.
Okay. And I pull out from behind the podium a list of 100 sellers. 100 sellers where I not only tell you you guys know where I'm going with this, right? And I'm with Julie and I in front of 5,000 agents, right? You're all frothing at the mouth for seller leads. And we're in Omaha, Nebraska, and these are 100 seller leads in Omaha, Nebraska. This is not a Mickey Mouse list. These are sellers who have absolutely want to sell their houses. They know what their price isn't. They know any feedback that's already been obtained, so they know they need to paint the walls or whatever they need to do. These are motivated, absolutely must sell sellers. Not sell someday, but these are sell now sellers. Okay, how much would you guys pay me for those 100 leads? And we've done this before. We've done this in front of groups of people before where they didn't know we were letting them in because we hadn't, this was how we start.
Had a live auction.
This is how we start the expired conversation when Julie and I do live events, right? Now we're rounding the bend using the example. So we should have done this at the beginning of our podcast today, but I want you to think about what you were in that room. You're looking up at Julie and I, you're hearing us say this, what we're offering is our list of expired listings and the other agents, let's say in the audience don't. How much money do you think we would be offered for that list of 100 agents or a list of 100 seller leads? You guys know it would be thousands of dollars. Agents would go crazy. 100 seller leads. How much would you pay? Do I hear $1,000, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000? And I know they would pay that because that's what they're paying for worthless buyer leads from Zillow.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's insane because guess what?
Which are worth less.
Are you listening, listeners? Are you listening? Expired leads are free. free. Okay. And Tim, I don't want to go to the MLS and do all the work myself. There are expired services that we have, frankly,
that are nearly free.
That we have great relationships with that you'll learn about as a Premier Coaching client. Well, they'll actually go into your MLS. They'll find the expireds for you, find phone numbers for you, find the listing status, make sure it hasn't been relisted, and then they'll basically email to you a list of all those expireds. You can then log in, and they'll even go as far as to dialing the damn phone for you, and all you've got to do is use our script and say what you got to say. Or you can go to their door, right? Why is it that you guys want everything to be more complicated than that? Explain to me why you want things to be harder than what we just described. You think I'm oversimplifying it? I am not. Well, it will require you actually making some effort. That is true. But it's so easy, and yet you guys want it to be so hard. You want it to have, I need to create a funnel, a click funnel. I need to create all these ads. What? You're telling me to actually go and have a conversation with a seller, someone I don't know, someone who isn't in my funnel, who I haven't dripped on for 6 months? Absolutely. Why aren't you doing it? Why? It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, you guys want to make it harder for yourselves. Why? Ask yourself that question, listeners, truthfully. Challenge yourself. Julie and I have been asking that question of all of you for 20 years. We've been in the real estate business for over 25, 27 or something. Yeah, too damn long. I don't want to think about
111 in realtor years.
Well, I was 23 and you were 22 and I'm 51 and you're not
35 and a lot.
You're 35 plus maybe 15. We're not saying.
Exactly. But
the reality of it is that we've been asking that same question forever. Mm-hmm. And you know what? We've never one time had anyone tell us other than this is the bullshit that they'll say. Well, it's because I would much rather have a system in place that goes out and does the work for me. So, because my time is more valuable. No, it is not. Your time is not more valuable than going out and taking a listing.
I would contend that you're making your time less and less valuable the more things you screw around with because your results are so crappy.
It's ego because you don't want to go out and do the real work and learn the real skills because you might get the occasional no.
Well, I think some of this is they don't actually understand some of the conversion ratios either because they've been convinced that if you do, hundreds or thousands of this, whatever it is, you have to do that much of something with, drip campaigns or whatever so that you can harness that 1 or 2% that maybe sometimes works out and maybe sometimes works out for you and not somebody else, Julie, versus 100% of expireds who 100% have their hand up.
You think like that?
I know, that's my point.
They don't think in terms of most of the people listening right now.
Yeah.
They
don't differentiate one lead from another.
You could give them the best analytics forever on what they're doing, and they would never look at it.
Banging my head into the wall.
Right, exactly. But we have to look out for them, knowing that most of them are never going to look. That's what that's our job, right? That's the mission which we've chosen, right?
Indeed.
For basically our entire adult life.
I know, but it does work, and we're proof. Our coaching clients are proof. You guys have got to be more proactive about this. And if the least expensive, least time-consuming way is to use your hot sheet and door knock them. All you have to do is do a little history to make sure they haven't been relisted and show up.
Let's actually go through. I know we're over 30, but I just want to focus on this. Mm-hmm. If someone's going to do this, you're going to have to learn, listeners, what to say, how to say it. And here's a little secret for you: the sellers always say the same thing at virtually the same time when you're talking to them.
Always.
It's literally like they're reading a script while you're sort of reading a script, and it's ridiculous how the conversations are all the same. But what you really need to have to get over the hump is not only the ability to answer the set the appointment, but you really need a powerful pre-listing pack. The pre-listing pack, a well-organized pre-listing pack, using our pre-listing pack, which you get as part of Premier Coaching, does probably 90% of the heavy lifting for you. It answers the questions that you are living in fear of ever having asked of you, and that's the exact reason why you haven't become a listing agent yet.
Meaning objections.
The pre-listing pack is designed to answer all the questions that you are living in fear of the seller asking you. What's your commission? Will you discount your commission? Why are you different? Why should I list with you? Tell me about your marketing plan. What are you doing for internet lead generation? And a whole bunch of other things. The pre-listing pack takes away all the bad potential challenges you might have.
Conflict.
The conflict. They don't want the conflict either. They don't want you to be in their house. They don't want to then have to ask you all these questions that create conflict for you. They don't want that either. By sending the pre-listing pack, by saying, here are the questions in a very organized, elegant way. Here are the solutions to your questions, the answers to your questions. Here's how I'm going to get the job done. You immediately, even as a brand new agent, elevate yourself so much above most listing agents, which have no listing presentation other than a bunch of crap thrown in a folder that they got from their broker.
Exactly.
And you can win. You'll beat them just because your presentation is better, even if you're brand new. And we have clients do that all the time.
I know. I love, well, that's another part of what we do in our Facebook Live Premier Coaching Mastermind that we do daily is we have victory speeches, right?
Yep.
And I love it when it's so common for them to say, I finally got my pre-listing package done. That's great. I went and I used it for the first time, and you're not going to believe I took the listing. It was so easy. It's like they're in disbelief. And then I say, okay, go lather, rinse, repeat.
Yes, exactly. Go make 10, and then you have 1 week to go have 10 conversations with decision-making adults about selling your houses where you can use the pre-listing pack.
Yeah.
When you have that, it does give you a real sense of confidence.
It's like Red Bull for real estate. It gives you wings.
Yeah.
It does give you confidence, and you actually want to get out and speak with more people.
Because you
can handle it.
Right. And then we have a listing presentation. Our listing presentation generally takes about 15 to 20 minutes. And we tell you what to say. We tell you how to say it. And if all you ever get good at in your real estate business is proactive lead generation, pre-qualifying, presenting, and Julie's going to say something. And negotiating, right? If all you ever got good at was those 4 things, and truthfully, in a market like this, as a listing agent, if it's just proactive lead generation, pre-qualifying, and presenting, if you only got good at those 3 things, you're not just good, you're amazing because you can delegate everything else.
It's true.
So, guys, listen. If you want to move your business forward as fast as possible, stop chasing the shiny objects. Do the real work of real estate. Text the word success. SUCCESS to 47372. Text the word success to 47372 and do become one of our Premier Coaching members. We are going to pick up tomorrow where we left off today, and we're going to be talking about our next favorite spoke on the wheel.
Yes.
For sale by owners.
Ooh.
You guys have a fantastic day. We'll talk with you on the show tomorrow.
This program has been a presentation by Tim and Julie Harris, Real Estate Coaching. For more information on our real estate coaching and training programs, visit our website at timandjulieharris.com. Remember to tune in weekdays at noon for upcoming shows, and until next time, thank you for listening to Real Estate Coaching Radio with Tim and Julie Harris.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.